At my wedding reception, my husband received a text. After reading it, he stormed out and never returned. Heartbroken, I searched for answers, only to discover he had run back to his ex. Years later, as I stood at the altar again, I saw a familiar face in the crowd, and the devastation in his eyes was unmistakable. The champagne glass slipped from my fingers, shattering against the reception hall's marble floor just as my heart did in that moment. Everyone turned, but I couldn't move. Across the room, Adam, my husband of exactly 6 hours, stood frozen, staring at his phone. The color had drained from his face, leaving behind a mask I didn't recognize on the man I thought I knew better than anyone. "I have to go," he said, his voice hollow as he finally looked up at me. Those 5 simple words crashed through our wedding reception like a wrecking ball. If you've ever had your heart shattered unexpectedly, hit that subscribe button. It's completely free and you'll never miss another story of betrayal, resilience, and second chances. Your support means everything as we continue sharing these emotional journeys together. Now, let's see how Angela's perfect day turned into her worst nightmare. I'd spent years imagining this day. Through grueling medical school rotations and sleepless nights on call, I'd pictured Adam waiting at the end of an aisle, smiling as I walked toward our future. Never once did that dream include watching him walk away from me in a crowded reception hall, wedding band still shiny and new on his finger. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. We met during my 2nd year of residency at Massachusetts General Hospital. I was the exhausted pediatric resident who spilled coffee on his expensive suit in the hospital cafeteria. Adam was the architectural firm owner who, instead of getting angry, asked for my number. "Doctors should probably get more sleep," he teased, helping me blot the stain. "Maybe I could buy you dinner? You know, when you're conscious enough to enjoy it." Adam was steady when my world was chaos. While I navigated the turbulent waters of medical training, he became my anchor. He'd leave encouraging notes in my scrub pockets and wait up with takeout after my 30-hour shifts. When I fell asleep mid-conversation, he'd just smile and tuck a blanket around me. "You're going to save so many little lives, Dr. Angela," he'd whisper, pride evident in his voice. After 3 years together, he proposed in the hospital garden where we often met for lunch. Simple, meaningful, perfect, just like Adam himself. Our engagement lasted 18 months while I finished my residency and secured a position as a pediatric attending. The wedding planning was surprisingly stress-free. Adam handled most of it, consulting me for the important decisions but shielding me from the minutiae. "Your brain is needed for more important things than napkin colors," he'd insisted. Our wedding day dawned clear and beautiful. My mother cried while helping me into my dress, a simple off-shoulder gown with delicate beading. "Your father would have been so proud," she whispered, adjusting my veil. Walking down the aisle, I saw only Adam. His eyes welled with tears as I approached, and when our hands finally met, I felt that familiar sense of homecoming I always experienced with him. "You are my beginning and my forever," he vowed, voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "You are the family I choose, the home I return to, the love I never thought I deserved," I promised in return. The ceremony was flawless. We exchanged rings under an arch of white roses and greenery, surrounded by our closest friends and family. When the officiant pronounced us married, Adam's kiss felt like a seal on everything we'd built and everything we'd become together. The reception began with our first dance to the James Arthur song that had been playing during our first official date. Adam held me close, whispering private jokes in my ear that made me giggle against his shoulder. I remember thinking how lucky I was to have found someone who knew all my quirks and loved me because of them, not despite them. "Dr. and Mrs. Thompson," the DJ announced, though I'd kept my maiden name professionally. We were showered with applause as we made our way to the head table. My best friend and maid of honor, Jessica, delivered a heartfelt toast about witnessing our love story unfold. "To Angela and Adam, proof that coffee stains can lead to happily ever after," she concluded, raising her glass. Adam's best man followed with stories of how Adam had changed after meeting me. "He used to work weekends until he met Angela," he joked. "Now he leaves precisely at 5 because, and I quote, Angela might have a rare night off and I refuse to miss it." The evening progressed perfectly. We cut the cake, a 3-tiered masterpiece that Adam had selected after visiting 5 bakeries. He'd insisted on finding one that wasn't too sweet because I preferred subtle flavors. That was Adam, always paying attention to the small details that made me happy. I was speaking with my former medical school roommate when I noticed Adam check his phone. At first I thought nothing of it. Probably wedding congratulations from colleagues who couldn't attend. But then I saw his expression change, his confident posture collapsing inward as he read whatever message had appeared on his screen. He read it again. And again. Each time his face grew paler. I excused myself and crossed the room, concern growing with each step. Adam? Is everything okay? He looked up, but his eyes seemed to look through me rather than at me. I have to go, he said, his voice suddenly flat and distant. Go? Go where? We're in the middle of our reception, I laughed nervously, reaching for his arm. He pulled away. I can't explain right now. I need to leave. The music continued playing, but for us, time stopped. Guests nearby began to notice something was wrong. Adam, you're scaring me, I whispered urgently. Whatever it is, we can handle it together. That's what we just promised, remember? I'm sorry, Angela. His eyes finally focused on mine, filled with an emotion I couldn't decipher. I made a mistake. What mistake? Adam, please. I can't do this. He backed away, bumping into a waiter carrying champagne flutes. The crash drew more attention. Can't do what? My voice rose, panic replacing confusion. We just got married. I'm sorry, he repeated, already turning away. I have to go. I followed him, wedding dress gathered in my hands, pleading for an explanation as heads turned and conversations halted. By the time I reached the lobby, Jessica had caught up with me, concern etched across her face. What's happening? She demanded, grabbing my elbow to steady me. I don't know, I stammered. He got a text and now he's leaving. We burst through the entrance doors just in time to see Adam's black Audi peeling out of the parking lot, leaving behind nothing but exhaust and unanswered questions. Jessica ran to check the lot while I stood frozen, my wedding dress a cruel reminder of promises made and broken in the same day. When she returned, her expression confirmed what I already knew. His car's gone, she said softly, pulling me into a hug as my legs finally gave way. Inside, 150 guests waited for a bride and groom who would never return to the dance floor. My perfect day, my perfect love story had just been exposed as the greatest illusion of my life. And I had no idea why. The hospital became my sanctuary in the weeks that followed. I volunteered for every available shift, staying long after my rotations ended. The sterile hallways of Boston General felt safer than my apartment, which still contained boxes of wedding gifts I couldn't bear to open or return. Dr. Reynolds, you've been on call for 36 hours, Dr. Patel, my supervisor, noted with concern 6 weeks after what I now referred to as the incident. This isn't sustainable. I'm fine, I insisted, reviewing a patient chart to avoid his gaze. The Peterson case needs monitoring and we're short-staffed this weekend. He sighed, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. Angela, I admired your dedication before, but this isn't dedication, it's avoidance. Go home. That's not a suggestion. Home. The word felt hollow now. My mother had stayed with me for 2 weeks after the wedding, fielding calls from concerned guests and handling the logistics of returning gifts. Jessica had packed away the wedding photos and Adam's remaining belongings, storing them in her garage because I couldn't face them. But eventually, everyone had to return to their lives, leaving me alone with the unanswered question. Why? Adam hadn't contacted me. His social media had gone dark. His business partner awkwardly avoided me when I ran into him at the coffee shop near the hospital. It was as if Adam had vanished, taking with him any explanation for his abrupt departure. Until Marcos, our mutual friend from Adam's tennis club, stopped by the hospital to drop off a pediatric patient. His nephew with a broken arm. I saw the hesitation in his eyes when he spotted me at the nurse's station. Angela, how are you holding up? He asked, his discomfort palpable. I'm managing, I replied with the practiced smile I'd perfected. How about you? How's the tennis group? Good, good. He shifted his weight, eyes darting around. Adam hasn't been around much. Though Vanessa apparently keeps him busy these days. My hand froze over the chart I was signing. Vanessa? His ex-girlfriend Vanessa. The moment the words left my mouth, I knew. The text. The color draining from Adam's face. His immediate departure. Marcos winced, realizing too late he'd said too much. I thought you knew. They've been seen together around Cambridge. Someone mentioned she's pregnant. I assumed that's why he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The ex-girlfriend Adam had dated for 3 years before we met. The sophisticated art gallery owner who'd left him for an opportunity in Europe. He told me they weren't right for each other, that they wanted different things. Apparently what they wanted was a baby. That night was the first time I truly broke down. I threw my wine glass against the wall, watching it shatter like my carefully constructed life had. I screamed until my throat was raw. I tore the unworn lingerie I'd packed for our honeymoon into shreds. Then I curled up on the bathroom floor and wept until there was nothing left inside me. Depression settled over me like a fog. I functioned at work. Barely, but lost 20 pounds in a month. I stopped answering calls from friends. My mother's worried voice filled my voicemail, but I couldn't summon the energy to ease her concerns. It was during this dark period that I met Noah. Not in some romantic movie meet cute, but in the harsh fluorescent light of the pediatric intensive care unit at 3 a.m. His 8-year-old daughter Lily had been admitted with complications from cystic fibrosis. As a pediatric specialist, I was called in to consult. "She's usually tougher than this," he explained, his eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. "Ever since her mom died last year, she's been trying to prove she's strong for me." I reviewed Lily's chart. "Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who need the most care," I said, surprising myself with words I hadn't believed about myself in months. Noah was different from the other anxious parents I encountered daily. A nurse at a neighboring hospital, he understood medical terminology and asked intelligent questions about Lily's treatment. But more than that, he showed a quiet resilience that resonated with me. He sat by his daughter's bed for hours, reading her favorite books even when she was sleeping, handling each setback with grace. Lily improved under our care, and I found myself stopping by her room even when not required. She had her father's warmth and an old soul's wisdom. "You look sad inside your eyes," she observed one afternoon while I checked her breathing. "My dad looked like that after Mom went to heaven. He thought I didn't notice, but I did." Her simple observation cracked something open inside me. "I am sad," I admitted the first time I'd acknowledged it aloud. "But I'm working on it." Noah caught the tail end of our conversation as he returned with a cup of hospital coffee. After his daughter fell asleep, he found me completing charts at the nurse's station. "Lily's pretty perceptive," he said, offering me a fresh coffee. "Whatever you're going through, and you don't have to tell me what it is. It gets easier. Not better necessarily, but easier to carry." "Does it?" I asked, my voice smaller than I intended. "Some days. And those days eventually outnumber the bad ones." We started talking after that. Brief conversations about Lily's care that gradually expanded into discussions about books, music, and eventually our personal losses. I told him about Adam in broken, halting sentences. He told me about his wife Sarah's battle with cancer and the challenge of raising a chronically ill child alone. As Lily's condition stabilized, Noah suggested we meet for coffee outside the hospital. "Just as friends," he clarified quickly. "I think we both could use one." Friendship with Noah was uncomplicated. He didn't expect me to be healed or whole. He recognized the broken places and never tried to fix them, just acknowledged them with understanding. 3 months after meeting Noah, Dr. Patel left a flyer on my desk for a support group called Starting Over. It was for people who had experienced abandonment of various kinds. "I'm not going to a pity party with strangers," I told him flatly. "It's not about pity," he countered. "It's about not being alone with it anymore." I might have ignored his suggestion if Noah hadn't encouraged me. "I joined something similar after Sarah died," he confessed during one of our coffee meetings. "It helped to hear that my feelings weren't unique or wrong." I went reluctantly, sitting in the back row of a community center meeting room, ready to leave at the first sign of forced group hugs. But what I found instead were people like me. Professionals, parents, ordinary individuals who'd had their lives upended by someone else's choices. No one offered platitudes or promised healing. They just shared their stories, some fresh wounds, others old scars. "I'm Angela," I finally said during my 3rd meeting. "My husband left during our wedding reception. I'm a doctor. I should be better at fixing things, including myself. But I don't know how." It wasn't healing. It wasn't even close. But it was a beginning. 5 years can change everything. The woman who once sobbed on a bathroom floor had evolved into someone stronger. Someone I was proud to be. My office nameplate now read, Dr. Angela Reynolds, pediatric pulmonary specialist, and the walls displayed both my medical achievements and crayon drawings from grateful young patients. Noah and I had built our relationship slowly, deliberately. Neither of us wanted to rush after our respective losses. We'd gone from hospital acquaintances to friends to something deeper over the course of 2 years before he finally kissed me during Lily's 11th birthday celebration. His daughter had cheered from across the room, later confessing she'd been waiting forever for us to figure it out. By the time Noah proposed last spring, Lily's health had stabilized thanks to a new treatment protocol. We functioned as a family unit already, sharing a renovated colonial in Brookline with a backyard garden where Lily conducted scientific experiments with plants. Noah had proposed there, Lily standing nearby holding a handmade sign that read, "Say yes," with approximately 1,000 exclamation points. "We already love you," Noah had said simply, holding out a vintage emerald ring rather than a traditional diamond. "We just want to make it official." Life felt steady, peaceful, until our wedding plans began in earnest. The first bridal boutique I visited with Jessica sent me into a panic attack so severe I had to leave. The consultant's innocent question, "Is this your first marriage?" left me hyperventilating in the parking lot. "We can do this differently," Jessica soothed, driving me home. "No big ceremony, no reception. Whatever feels right for you." Noah was equally understanding when I tearfully explained my reaction. "I don't need a production," he assured me. "I just need you." We settled on a small beach wedding in Provincetown, nothing like my first elaborate affair. No church, no formal reception hall. Just 40 close friends and family members, a justice of the peace, and a relaxed dinner afterward at a local restaurant. I found a simple blue dress that felt nothing like a traditional wedding gown. We would exchange plain bands rather than ornate rings. Everything was proceeding smoothly until I decided to clear the final items from my storage unit. Most of it contained medical textbooks and winter clothes, but in the back corner sat a box I'd deliberately ignored for years. The few wedding mementos Jessica hadn't disposed of. "You should go through it," my therapist had suggested during a recent session. "Not to reopen wounds but to confirm they've healed." I brought the box home one afternoon when Noah was working and Lily was at a friend's house. Inside were cards from well-wishers, a few photographs Jessica had salvaged, and the handwritten vows I'd nervously practiced for weeks before the ceremony. Beneath them I found something unexpected. A small blue envelope with my name written in Adam's unmistakable architect's handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it, revealing a letter dated the morning of our wedding. "Angela, by the time you read this we'll be married. I'm writing this because I woke up with doubts that terrify me, and I need to work through them before I stand before you and our families. I love you, never doubt that. But I'm haunted by the question of whether I deserve you. You're brilliant, compassionate, and completely certain about the path you want. I admire that certainty more than you know." Vanessa texted last night. After 2 years of silence, she chooses the night before our wedding to reach out. She says she made a mistake leaving, that she wants to talk. I didn't respond, but her timing has stirred up old insecurities. I'm not writing this because I'm considering her offer. I'm writing because seeing her name made me question whether I'm truly past that chapter of my life. You deserve someone without lingering ghosts. By the time we exchange vows today, I'll have resolved these feelings. I promise you my whole heart, not pieces left over from old wounds. All my love, Adam. The letter slipped from my fingers. He'd had doubts, normal pre-wedding jitters that he'd worked through privately. But then Vanessa had texted again during the reception. What had that message said that could make him abandon everything? Before I could stop myself, I found myself searching for Adam's mother's phone number. Margaret Thompson had always been kind to me, proudly introducing me as her future daughter-in-law during family gatherings. We hadn't spoken since the wedding. She answered on the third ring, her voice instantly recognizable. "Angela? Is that really you?" "Hi, Margaret," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." "Never," she said warmly. "I've thought about you often, dear. How are you?" We talked carefully at first, exchanging pleasantries until she finally addressed the elephant in the conversation. "Adam made a terrible mistake," she said quietly. "One he's regretted every day since." "I found a letter," I explained, "from our wedding day. He mentioned Vanessa had contacted him. Margaret's sharp intake of breath was audible. That woman, she said, her voice hardening. She knew exactly what she was doing, contacting him right before your wedding. Over the next 30 minutes, Margaret filled in the gaps of the story I'd never known. Vanessa had texted Adam during our reception claiming she was pregnant with his child from a brief encounter during his bachelor weekend. A weekend I knew he'd spent fishing with his father and brothers at their cabin in Maine. He left to confront her, Margaret explained. He was devastated, convinced he'd somehow betrayed you during that weekend, though he had no memory of seeing her. He was determined to do the right thing while figuring out what had happened. But there was no baby, I said flatly, the truth dawning on me. There was never a baby, Margaret confirmed. By the time Adam realized she'd manipulated him, she'd isolated him from everyone. Classic emotional abuse. When he finally broke free and tried to find you, you'd moved hospitals. He thought you'd never forgive him. I ended the call with a strange sense of closure mixed with fresh pain. Adam hadn't abandoned me for love of another woman, but out of misplaced responsibility and manipulation. I told Noah everything that night after Lily went to bed. He listened without interruption, holding my hand. "Does this change things for us?" he finally asked, his voice carefully neutral. I squeezed his hand. "No," I said firmly. "It explains the past, but it doesn't change our future." The week before our wedding passed in a blur of final preparations. Then, the night before the ceremony, as I was checking emails one last time, a message appeared from an address I immediately recognized. Subject: Tomorrow. Angela. My mother told me about your call. I've drafted this email 1,000 times over the years. I don't expect forgiveness, but before you start your new life, I needed you to know the truth. I made the worst mistake of my life that day, trusting Vanessa's lies instead of talking to you. If you're willing, I'd like to meet just once to apologize properly. Adam. My cursor hovered over the reply button for a long moment before I closed my laptop. Tomorrow, I would marry a man who had never given me reason to doubt him. The past had no place in our future. I deleted the email without responding. Morning sunlight sparkled across Cape Cod Bay as I stood barefoot in the sand, the gentle May breeze carrying the scent of salt and beach roses. My blue dress fluttered around my ankles, so different from the formal gown of my first wedding. Noah waited ahead, handsome in a light linen suit, his smile calm and steady. Beside him, Lily beamed in her pale yellow dress, a basket of wildflowers clutched in her hands. This time there was no elaborate processional, no church organ, no rows of pews filled with distant relatives and business associates. Just a simple path through the sand, lined with seashells that Lily had collected and arranged herself the day before. Jessica walked behind me, carrying a small bouquet matching mine. "Ready?" she whispered. I nodded, surprising myself with the certainty I felt. The anxiety that had plagued me during planning had dissipated with the deleted email. Today belonged to the future, not the past. The small gathering of friends and family turned as the guitarist began playing, not the traditional wedding march, but "Here Comes the Sun," one of Lily's favorites. I walked toward Noah with sure steps, no longer the wounded woman I'd been 5 years ago. When I reached them, Lily took my hand and placed it in her father's, a gesture we'd practiced but that felt beautifully spontaneous in the moment. "Now we're really going to be a family," she whispered loudly enough for nearby guests to chuckle. The justice of the peace, a friend of Noah's from hospital administration, smiled warmly. "We gather today not to witness the beginning of what will be, but rather to recognize what already is," she began. "Noah, Angela, and Lily have already created a family bound by love and mutual respect. Today we celebrate the formal recognition of that bond." Noah and I had written our own vows, simple promises that acknowledged our pasts while embracing our shared future. "Angela," Noah began, his voice steady, "I promise to honor your strength, to support your dreams, and to partner with you in all things. I promise to remember that we both carry scars, and to be gentle with the wounded places. Most of all, I promise that you will never walk alone again." My voice trembled slightly as I responded. "Noah, I promise to cherish the family we've built, to face challenges beside you rather than alone, and to remember every day that love is a choice we make again and again. I promise to trust in us even when trust feels difficult." Lily stepped forward for her part, a surprise we'd planned together. "I promise to pick up my socks," she announced seriously, causing laughter to ripple through the gathering. Then, more solemnly, and I promise to always remember how lucky I am to have two people who love me so much. As we exchanged simple gold bands, I felt a lightness I hadn't expected. Not the breathless excitement of my first wedding, but something more substantial. Peace. By the power vested in me by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the justice concluded, I now pronounce you a family. Noah's kiss was gentle, and then Lily threw her arms around both of us, completing our circle. The celebration moved to a nearby restaurant with a deck overlooking the water. White lights twinkled in the early evening as guests mingled, enjoying the casual buffet and open bar. Noah's parents chatted animatedly with my mother. Lily and her friends had claimed a corner table, heads bent together in preteen conspiracy. I was accepting congratulations from a colleague when I noticed Jessica's expression change, her eyes fixed on something behind me. A murmur rippled through the guests nearest the entrance. Angela. Noah appeared at my side, his body suddenly tense. Don't turn around yet. But I already knew. Some primitive instinct, some cellular memory recognized the presence before I even saw him. I turned slowly and there he stood, Adam. He looked nothing like the confident man who'd left me 5 years ago. His once athletic frame had thinned considerably, his tailored clothes hanging loosely. Deep shadows underlined his eyes, and his skin held an unhealthy pallor that my medical training recognized instantly. What is he doing here? Jessica hissed, moving protectively toward me. Noah's hand found mine, squeezing gently. Do you want me to ask him to leave? I couldn't answer immediately. The sight of Adam, the physical manifestation of my greatest heartbreak, standing at my second wedding reception created a surreal moment where past and present collided. Adam took a hesitant step forward, then stopped as several guests moved to block his path. His eyes never left mine. I just need 5 minutes, he called, his voice hoarse. Please, Angela. Noah's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. This isn't the time or place, he said, loud enough for Adam to hear. I know, Adam acknowledged, his gaze dropping momentarily. I wouldn't have come if. I've been emailing, calling your office. I didn't know how else to reach you. The restaurant had gone silent, the celebration frozen in a tableau of shocked faces and uncertain postures. My carefully constructed new beginning was suddenly shadowed by the past I'd tried to leave behind. 5 minutes, I found myself saying. Outside. Noah looked concerned. Angela, you don't owe him anything. I know. I squeezed his hand. This isn't about owing. It's about ending things properly so they don't follow us. Jessica moved to my side. I'm coming with you. We stepped onto the beach behind the restaurant, the May evening air cooler now as the sun began its descent. Adam waited by the water's edge, his back to us, shoulders hunched. You have 5 minutes, Jessica stated flatly as we approached. And I'm staying right here. Adam turned, and in the fading light, I could see more clearly the toll the years had taken. Thank you for seeing me, he said simply. What do you want, Adam? I asked, keeping my voice level. To apologize. To explain. He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I remembered well. Vanessa lied about everything. There was never a baby. She saw our wedding announcement and decided she wanted me back. Your mother told me, I said. He nodded. What she probably didn't tell you is that I lost everything. My business, my savings, my self-respect. Vanessa. He paused, swallowing hard. She isolated me, convinced me you could never forgive what I'd done. By the time I realized how completely she'd manipulated me, she'd moved on to someone with more money, more potential. I'm sorry that happened to you, I said, and meant it. But why are you here today? Why not respect my decision not to respond to your email? Because I'm running out of time, he said, his voice breaking. The doctors gave me 6 months. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The medical part of my brain processed this information with clinical detachment. The weight loss, the pallor, the slight yellowish tint to his skin that I hadn't noticed initially. The human part of me felt a wave of sadness for the man I had once loved. I'm sorry, I said again inadequately. I don't want your pity, he insisted. I just needed you to know that losing you was the biggest mistake of my life. I've regretted it every day since. He took a step toward me, then stumbled, his knees buckling. Jessica gasped as he collapsed onto the sand. Medical training overrode emotion as I rushed forward. kneeling beside him to check his pulse. Rapid, thready, signs of dehydration or possibly hypoglycemia. Adam? Can you hear me? I turned his face gently toward mine. His eyelids fluttered. Jessica, get Noah and ask the restaurant for orange juice or a soda. Something with sugar, I instructed, my voice automatically shifting to doctor mode. Should I call an ambulance? She asked, already backing toward the restaurant. I checked his breathing, shallow but regular. Not yet. This could just be low blood sugar or exhaustion. As Jessica ran toward the restaurant, I found myself alone with Adam for the first time in 5 years, my fingers pressed against his wrist, counting his heartbeats while my own wedding reception continued just yards away. History had indeed repeated itself, but this time I was the one making choices about staying or going. Noah arrived with Jessica moments later, a glass of orange juice in hand and concern etched across his features. He knelt beside me in the sand without hesitation, medical training overtaking any personal feelings. How long has he been unconscious? He asked, automatically checking Adam's pupils with the penlight he always carried. Less than 2 minutes, I replied, accepting the juice. Adam, can you hear me? I need you to try to drink this. Adam's eyelids fluttered, then opened. Confusion clouded his expression before recognition dawned. Angela, he murmured. I'm sorry, ruining your day again. Drink this, I instructed, ignoring his apology and helping him sit up enough to sip the juice. Noah supported his back, professional instinct overriding any animosity. Should we call an ambulance? Jessica asked, hovering anxiously. Adam shook his head weakly. No hospitals. Not tonight. That's not your decision, Noah said firmly. When was your last treatment? Adam looked surprised at Noah's knowledge, then understood. Angela told you. Just now, Noah confirmed. And as a medical professional, I'm not comfortable letting you leave without proper care. I checked myself out of Mass General yesterday, Adam admitted after finishing the juice. Against medical advice. I needed to see Angela before. He didn't finish the sentence. You delayed treatment to find me? I asked, the implications sinking in. Adam's gaze met mine. When my diagnosis came, all I could think was that I couldn't die with you believing I'd abandoned you for someone else. The truth felt suddenly urgent. The restaurant manager appeared, concerned about the commotion. Is everything all right? Should I call 911? We're handling it, Noah assured him. Could you bring us some privacy screens and perhaps a chair? Within minutes, the restaurant staff had created a secluded area on the deck with portable screens and a comfortable chair for Adam. Noah made a quick call to a doctor friend at the local hospital, arranging for Adam to be admitted later without emergency room drama. Why did you wait so long? I asked Adam once we were settled, professional detachment beginning to crack. 5 years, Adam. 5 years of believing you chose her over me. At first, I believed Vanessa's lie about the pregnancy, he explained, color gradually returning to his face. By the time I realized there was no baby, that she'd manipulated me with doctored photos and fake medical records, she'd convinced me you'd never forgive such a betrayal. He paused, exhaustion evident. She was very skilled at isolating people. By the time I broke free, your number had changed, you'd moved hospitals, and your social media was private. My mother knew how to reach me, I pointed out. She refused my calls for 2 years, Adam said. When she finally spoke to me, she said you were happy and I should leave you alone. I respected that until the diagnosis. Noah, who had been silent, finally spoke. The cancer, how advanced? Stage 4, metastasized to the liver. Without treatment, 3 months. With aggressive treatment, maybe a year. Adam's voice held remarkable steadiness. I've made my peace with it. A small voice interrupted from beyond the privacy screen. Mom? Dad? Are you okay? Lily's anxious face appeared as she pushed aside a screen. She hesitated when she saw Adam, curiosity overtaking concern. Is he sick? She asked, her experience with illness giving her a perspective beyond her years. Yes, honey, Noah answered honestly. This is an old friend who isn't feeling well. Lily approached without fear, studying Adam with the frank assessment of a child who had spent too much time in hospitals. You look like I did before my new medicine, she observed. All yellow and tired. Adam managed a smile. You must be Lily. Your parents are very lucky. Are you sad because you're sick or because of something else? She asked with uncanny perception. When my real mom died, Dad tried to hide how sad he was, but his eyes looked like yours. Adam glanced at me, then back to Lily. Both, I think, he answered honestly. Being sick is scary, but regrets are harder to carry. Lily nodded with the solemn understanding of a child who had faced mortality. When I'm scared at night, Dad says we can be brave and still need help. That's why we found Angela. She helps people who are scared. The simple wisdom of her statement hung in the air between us all. Noah put his arm around his daughter, pride evident in his expression. That's absolutely right, he agreed, making a decision I could see forming in his eyes. He looked at me, seeking confirmation. Adam, we're going to get you to the hospital tonight. Tomorrow we'll see about transferring you back to your doctors in Boston. I can't ask that of you, Adam protested weakly. This is your wedding night. You didn't ask, Noah said simply. As doctors, it's what we do. Our honeymoon to Nantucket was postponed by 3 days. Instead, Noah and I spent those days arranging Adam's transfer to his oncology team in Boston, ensuring his treatment plan resumed, and having long, difficult conversations that peeled back layers of misunderstanding and manipulation. Adam shared painful details of his relationship with Vanessa. The isolation tactics, the emotional manipulation, the threats when he tried to leave. Classic patterns of abuse that had trapped a man who once seemed so confident and strong. Why didn't you fight harder to find me? I asked on the second day, the question that had lingered beneath all others. Because I believed I deserved to lose you, he answered. Walking out was unforgivable regardless of why. Some mistakes can't be undone. His words echoed in my mind that night as Noah and I talked in our hotel room. I should hate him, I admitted. Part of me still wants to. But you don't, Noah observed. It wasn't a question. I'm angry about the years wasted, the pain endured, I said. But hating him feels like carrying a weight I don't need anymore. Noah pulled me close. Forgiveness isn't about deserving, he reminded me. It's about freedom, yours, not his. On the morning we were set to leave for our delayed honeymoon, we visited Adam one last time. He looked marginally better, the hospital nutrition and resumed treatment bringing some vitality back to his face. Your flight leaves in 3 hours, he said. You shouldn't be here. We wanted to say goodbye properly, I explained, setting a small potted plant on his windowsill, something green and living amid the sterile hospital room. And to give you this, Noah added, handing Adam a child's drawing clearly made by Lily. It showed 3 stick figures holding hands with a smaller 4th figure standing slightly apart. My family plus Adam was written across the top in crooked letters. Adam's fingers trembled as he accepted it. She has your kindness, he said to Noah, then looked at me. And your healing spirit. She asked if she could write to you, I said. If that's okay. I'd like that, Adam replied, his voice catching. Angela, I shook my head, stopping him. No more apologies. What happened shaped us, but it doesn't define us now. We left Adam with contact information and promises to check on him after our trip. As Noah and I walked out of the hospital hand in hand, I felt a lightness I hadn't expected. Not the absence of pain, but its transformation into something that no longer held power over my future. Our taxi driver smiled at us in the rearview mirror. Honeymoon bound? He asked cheerfully. Yes, Noah answered, squeezing my hand. Just had to take care of something important first. The sunlight caught my wedding band as I turned to gaze out the window, watching the hospital recede in the distance. Some wounds never fully heal, but perhaps they can become part of a larger, more beautiful mosaic. Visible but no longer painful to touch. Behind us was a past we couldn't change. Ahead lay a future we would build together, richer for understanding that healing comes in unexpected ways, and sometimes from the very source of our deepest hurts.